Hey everybody, Coach Toolshed here, and today we're going to be discussing Red Dead Redemption 2 in sort of an overall gaming conversation surrounding, how critics receive the game and how fans receive the game, and the conversations that surround games post-launch and that continue for years to come, mainly on YouTube and different internet forums, but the sort of conversation that surrounds some of these games as we go through the years. And I was originally going to do a video still about Red Dead, but it was going to be something else entirely, but I decided to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to hold off on that video until next week because I've seen the conversation around Red Dead Redemption 2 start to crystallize over the last few days. Of course, we got the review scores last week, got nearly universal praise, really high Metacritic scores, some of the highest we've seen in years. And whenever that happens, there seems to be a trend of these games sort of build up this immunity to criticism online, whether that be in YouTube comments sections or different forums or whatever, wherever you might hear the sort of conversation going on. It doesn't really matter where you go. There are certain games that sort of build up this immunity to all criticism, and if you have any issue with the game at all, well, you become the outsider. You are the problem. You are the person who has no taste in gaming if you don't agree that everything about this particular game is perfect. And I'm not talking about just Red Dead Redemption 2 here. I'm just using this as a lens to view the overall conversation when it comes to how we as fans react with games like this. These games that get these super high scores and that everyone just is gushing over, because no matter how much you might like the game or the critics might like the game, there's always going to be some people that really don't like the game, that it doesn't speak to. And as I said in my first impressions video about this game, this is a game that not everyone is going to enjoy because of the deliberately slow pace that the game has. And the conversation I see quickly sprouting up around this game is, if you aren't a fan of the slower pace of the game, well, that's because you must have a short attention span. You must not be able to critically think. You must be one of those gamers who just rushes through games and it's a problem on you, or maybe you're just a kid and you don't know any better. This is the sort of conversation I already see happening around this game, and I'm here to say that that's not necessarily the case. This game is slowly paced. The game that came to my mind when I first started playing it was not Red Dead Redemption 1 or Grand Theft Auto or any games like that. It was actually Kingdom Come Deliverance, because this game does a lot of minutia that you have to deal with to get through the game. Now, you don't, like I said before, you don't necessarily have to do all of this stuff. However, the game does urge you to do that. It does want to draw you into this world. You're going to be riding long distances quietly on your horse. It's going to draw you into this setting and into this world, which is the same thing that Kingdom Come Deliverance tried to do, which is even in a more realistic way and much more hardcore of a simulation, I guess you could say, with that game. And for some people, that was a perfect gaming experience. I know some people who consider Kingdom Come to be a great RPG that came out this year, one of their favorite games that they've played in years. And for some people, it's just not going to cut it because it's too deliberately paced. It's not going to entice them. Now, something similar happened to me, but the inverse, when it came to a game that also received really high praise and won a ton of people had this on their top 5 list for the year back in 2016. But it's a game that I played, and I made it through a couple chapters, and it's just not my thing. And I'm talking about Doom 2016. Now, this is a game that's well made, and I've played it, and I can see why people enjoy it, but I'm just not into that fast-paced Twitch-type shooter where you're just flying around and just everything's frantic shooting. That's not really my type of game, but I can see why people enjoy it. But I wouldn't want anyone coming up to me and telling me that I don't have taste in games just because I didn't enjoy that game so much. I'm not saying that I have a problem with the game. I think the game's fine. It's just not for me. And I can see the same thing happening with a lot of people in this conversation, because I see the conversation, people like, well, I like this and I like this, but I just can't get into this game, Red Dead Redemption 2, because of the pacing. And I understand that, but just from the opposite way. I can't get into these super fast-paced games a lot of times. Sometimes I can, but sometimes I can't. And so why can't the inverse be the correct response or the opinion of someone else? Of course it can. And so I really dislike when I see this conversation where if someone doesn't like a particular game, even if they lay out valid points, well, it calls into question their entire taste in gaming or their knowledge of gaming or their gaming experience. And to me, it's just absurd. We saw the same thing going back, this happens all the time. This isn't just a Red Dead Redemption 2 issue. You can go back just a couple of years. Let's look at last year. Let's look at Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now that's another game that got really high scores. It won a ton of awards, and you can't say anything wrong about it online, otherwise you will get attacked. You will be told that you don't know what you're talking about, you have no clue about games, you don't know what makes a good game, and you're a fool if you don't love Zelda Breath of the Wild. That's the consensus feeling. Now, some people can bring up valid criticisms, but it won't matter, because the zeitgeist surrounding that game is that you cannot have a problem with it, otherwise the problem lies with you. Something else we see with a game like The Witcher 3 came out in 2015. Now, I know a lot of people on my channel really, really enjoy that game. A lot of people really like CD Projekt Red, really like Witcher 3. But that's another game where it got really high review scores, won a ton of awards, and it has this immunity to criticism on the internet. You can't say anything bad about that game or you will be attacked. Just look at any video that discusses some negativity about that game. You'll see it's usually will have a 50-50 dislike ratio, which is high. And that's what happens. It's just one of those things. And if you try to make an argument in the comment section, you're going to get multiple people jumping down your throat about it. I've seen it happen all over the place. It's just one of those sacred cow games that you cannot criticize. And I don't like that. There's never been a perfect game made. No matter what your favorite game is, no matter what my favorite game is, there's never been a game that is completely free of flaws. And we need to understand that. We need to recognize that. And we need to understand that people can have legitimate criticisms of a game without being a hater, without being overly negative. Sometimes you can see things that just aren't that great about a game or something that you just don't enjoy. Sometimes it's just personal taste. Let's look at something like this. Let's look at food. Now, me personally, I hate onions. I don't want it. You make us some burgers, don't put onions anywhere on my burger. Some people want extra onions. They want it loaded with onions. They love the onions. It's a personal taste. Does it mean that I don't know food if I don't like the onions? No, that's absurd. So why does the conversation shift when it comes to gaming, where it's also down to personal taste? It's a very similar thing, and I don't like when I see people get attacked online if they have an issue, if it's a legitimate issue with the game. Now, if they're just coming to be like, game sucks, LOL, well, that's not really much of a discussion. And you see that too a lot. And yeah, there is, with Red Dead Redemption 2, sure, there are some people who are like, yeah, they legitimately do have a short attention span. Maybe they do legitimately not have a lot of experience with games. Maybe they just don't like that sort of game. There are people like that. But there's also people who bring up valid criticisms. I think, personally, the gunplay needs a lot of work. And there's a couple of other issues I have, or not really issues, but some other stuff that I would want to bring up, stuff I'm going to be talking about in another one of my videos about this game. But I just sort of want to bring this to your attention. It's something that I see happen all the time. Anytime you see a game that is really universally praised by critics, and you see this rabid fan base develop, and I'm already seeing it with this game, and I just want to caution people, let people speak their mind. If the game's not for them, then it's not for them. I assure you, out of the millions and millions of people that have already played this game, some people have probably just been like, yeah, I'm done with this. I can't get into it. And I can understand that, because this is not a game for everyone. As well made as you might think it is, maybe it's your favorite game ever. And I'm enjoying it, but I do have issues with it. All I'm saying is, guys, keep an open mind. And I think on this channel, a lot of you guys do that. But this goes to anyone else who might see this video. Maybe you're not familiar with the channel. Maybe you're not familiar with the audience that we have here. Where I think a lot of people here do keep an open mind about games and can see valid critiques of games. And that's what I enjoy. That's the sort of community. That's exactly what I want. People who can have a conversation without going off the rails about a game. That's exactly the conversation that I want to have. We can disagree. Some of my favorite games I've seen people smash, and I'm like, you want to know what? I understand what you're saying there. Because, yeah, that isn't something that's great about that particular game. Whatever game it might be. And I would just wish more people could allow people to have a dissenting opinion or an opinion that is not their own, and let them have that opinion without jumping down their throats and acting like they don't know anything about games. Because let's face it, guys, anyone who's watching, I've said this before, anyone who's watching YouTube videos about games is a hardcore gamer. Casual gamers don't watch videos, especially not on channels my size. If you're watching videos on YouTube about gaming, odds are you game a lot and you know about gaming. At least you know what your own personal preferences are. So don't jump down people's throats. That's all. And once again, this is not the video I intended to make about this game. I have another video planned entirely about this game, so don't worry about that. I'm going to be discussing that next week. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Am I way off base? Should we have these games where they can't be criticized at all? I don't think you'll agree with that, but hey, I'm sure there's some people that will, because there are always fanboys who can't listen to any problems with a game. But anyway, I'm Coach Toolshed. Please let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to stay in tune headed forward. And as always, keep it turned to 11.